Hey, what is up, guys, and welcome to today's stream. I'm Ricky Stokes, Zumiez store manager out of Pennsylvania. Today, we're super stoked to be partnering up with Vans to host a super talented photographer, videographer, skater, and all-around rad human being, and a member of the LGBTQ plus community, Sam McGuire. We're gonna have a live photography talk with Sam today. Sam's going to be going through, sharing some of his personally favorite photos, talking about what they mean to him, some super cool experiences that he has with them, and just talk about his passion through photography and being an advocate. Today, also, we're going to really talk about what it means to be an advocate, what it truly means to be an ally of the LGBTQ plus community, and what it means to be creative and have free self-expression. I'm stoked to take away some super awesome knowledge from this, and I hope you guys are too. Later on in the stream, Sam will be sharing some of his favorite photos that you guys submitted. I just want to say shout out to you guys for submitting those photos. We're super stoked that we got so many submissions. So later on in the stream, Sam's going to be sharing some of his favorites, giving his thoughts, his personal opinions on them. I'm super excited for this. We want to also encourage you guys to chat it up in the chat below. Talk about some things that inspire you guys, things you liked about the photos, or things you're enjoying about the stream, okay? So that's enough for me. We'll be right back after a short break, and we'll have Sam live with us to go over some awesome stuff. We'll see you guys then.
My name is Sam McGuire, and I'm a photographer. I love photography because it's like a glimpse of a moment in time. To be in the present right now, I think it's overwhelming in both inspiring ways and frustrating ways. The young queer skaters that I shoot, they don't give a fuck. They know exactly who they are. If you look at this wall, it's so much more inspiring and dynamic than if you were to just look at me alone. It's inspiring me to live my authentic truth.
Yo, what's going on, Sam? How we doing?
Good, Ricky. How are you?
I'm not doing too bad, So for the people that don't know you as well, can you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Yeah, I'm a photographer based in LA. I grew up in a town called Waterloo, Iowa, which is maybe a few hours outside of Chicago. And yeah, I'm a photographer. I specialize a lot in sort of lifestyle skateboarding, a mix of commercial skateboarding, sort of fun stuff. And I probably shot professional skateboarders for like 10 plus years, starting in 2008 or so.
Wow, that's awesome.
Yeah.
Sweet. So what were some of the early sparks for you to get into those creative avenues, you know?
I think it all began with my friend Chris, and we found a warehouse in Waterloo that we were skating at, and Chris got a video camera and I got a photo camera for Christmas, and we were just we made all these crappy ramps out of found wood. It was just in the middle of the winter, and for some reason they left the heat on this old warehouse, so we kind of built this skate park, and it was oh, this is cool, we should document this. Kind of just classic, you know. We were also obsessed with this was when CKY and all the BAM stuff was coming out, so we were just yeah, we were obsessed with that, and jumping out of shopping carts and filming all these stupid things. And then yeah, I think I went to school and I thought I was going to go to school for photography. I didn't totally love it, but I had a friend named Mike who was a skate photographer, and he showed me a lot of stuff, and that kind of started from there. And then it kind of started oh, it would be really cool. Skate photography is a really good way to learn a lot of techniques really quickly, because the image quality, it's very high. They want these really crisp lit images, but they don't get permits, they don't get permission. It's just kind of very on the go, so you have to learn a lot about lighting and a lot about everything, and be able to do it within a minute before you kind of get kicked out. So yeah. I thought that was really cool, and I mean, I was skating, so it was fun just documenting people. And then I just had a goal of oh, you know, I just want to get one picture published. And then I did, and then it kind of, I mean, it didn't like snowball from there. I wasn't like doing all this stuff, but it kind of like, it was like, okay, I'm going to get one picture published and then go on to like, you know, the editorial world or the commercial world shooting not skate stuff. And then, yeah, there would be like one thing next month and there'd be like a contest. Someone would ask me to go shoot, you know what I mean? And it kind of just like snowballed from there. And then I was like, oh, I guess I'll give this a shot.
I guess like, what was your first like break then? What was your first like ad that you had that really was just like, you know what, I'm like doing this right now?
I don't know if there was. I always think of that. I don't think there was a moment, because like when you're in the Midwest, I don't think you're on all the photo editors and like everyone's brain, because there isn't like a lot of pros out there. And so I think I shot an interview with Sean Malto, and I think that was like, you know, he had a big, it was like 8 pages in the skateboard mag, and I think I had the portrait, I think, and then like 4 pictures in it. And I think that was one of the first of like, okay, I'm in this magazine. And then maybe a few months later, he got like what they would call, I think it was Am of the Year, but I got the cover of that. And that was kind of, those 2 things mixed with other stuff was kind of like, okay, there's like this weird thing in photography where it's like getting to the point people know who you are, and then you can kind of, I mean, skating's similar, you know, it's like people know who you are, and then you kind of have to like start putting out work that like starts building up your career. So I think the cover and all that was the beginning, but it was also funny because I was in school full time. So it's like I got the cover and I was like studying for a final in the library, and I didn't know I was going to get it. And then a friend of mine texted, like he had it in his hand and was like, wow, congrats. And I was just like, what is that?
Yeah.
I had a final here in like 3, you know, I don't know if you went to college, but it's like the finals, you just don't sleep for like 4 days basically. And I was just like, I don't know what it was. I was like, I'll just deal with this tomorrow. Like I can't even like,
we'll sleep on that.
Yeah.
That's awesome though. That's
Yeah.
super sick. So when did you start to like work with bands closely and get connected with bands and stuff like that?
Probably a few years ago. We were working on some projects, and I have a bunch of friends that work there, and so it was kind of like, you know, I think waiting on just like a project that fits. And then there was like a bunch of stuff that kind of came into be. I was working with this magazine that we were working on some projects with them, and just trying to like, we did something at, what's the thing in Huntington? I forget the name of it. The US Open. And then, yeah, just like working on random stuff. I know a lot of the writers just from like shooting. So then it was just kind of like, as people were getting sponsored by bands, we would pitch stuff. And then I did this thing with Jan, who's like a skater in South Africa. And it was kind of similar, you know, I think that's photography. It's like you get a little thing, you know, and then it kind of just like slowly grows, and then you just start pitching stuff, because you just start, a lot of these companies, it's hard to like figure out who to talk to, and then randomly you get put on projects, or you get an opportunity. Or like with, when I was shooting with Malto, it was like really confusing, like how do I even get like a picture in a magazine? But then it was like, he lived by me. So then the people he was sponsored by kind of helped connect me with that. And so it was similar with Vans, where it was like, I have friends that work there, had writers, I had friends that were writers, and then eventually it kind of happens. And then once it happens, you know, you kind of start pitching stuff and try to be a little more sort of proactive and be like, hey, I think this would be cool. Some stuff works, you know, some stuff doesn't like go through as far as pitches. And I guess that's the,
that trial and error process, you know. I think it's like figuring out your avenue too, right? Like you're like putting your work out there. You're like you said, you're at school, you're hustling, right? So like that must be like a huge, like almost just like, wow, like this is like, it's almost feels probably like relieving, like almost like, man, I did that, you know? So like that's something to be like super proud of, which is awesome.
Thank you.
Of course. Growing up, did you think like skate photography was your avenue? Did you have like any other skate photographers that you looked up to or anything like that?
Yeah, I never. It was so fun. I only saw. I mean, I was like really small, so
Yeah.
the only time I would see like photographers come through was at demos and stuff like that. And I always felt like the photographers looked miserable because it was like this indoor demo and they're like shooting and boards are flying everywhere. And I was like, I don't want to do that, but I don't feel like I have access to like what Atiba and like other big names were doing, and they're like flying all over the world and doing this stuff. And I was like, I don't really get how, I'm like living in Iowa. I never understood how that would bridge the gap. So I didn't ever think that it would be a thing because it just seemed so out of the realm. I think that's why I was like, I just want to get one picture published and then try to move into like editorial or something not only in skating, so that like, I think there's a little bit more money in that. And I was like scared to just be living in my car, which kind of is what ended up happening.
I guess that there's like that point where uncertainty when you're following your dreams, and like you're probably gonna have to go out on a whim and just be like a full send, So I mean, it's awesome that, like I said, like you're on the other side of things, and we're talking about that process now.
Yeah,
so
but it's like, you're on the East Coast. Everyone moves to New York, like to the city, right? Yeah. I didn't know anybody that moved to LA, so it was like everything was like you have to move to LA. But I'm like, I don't know anything about LA, so it was like
a different world.
Yeah, and then luckily I had like some people and friends I met that really helped, but it was just like overwhelmingly crazy. And then you have like, you don't grow up in the skate world. Like a lot of people out here are very embedded in the world. It's just part of like the culture out here, but there's no like huge skate industry in Iowa. I mean, there's great skate shops and all that sort of stuff, but it's just like not, I don't know. So there was a very overwhelming, like, okay, how do I do this?
How do I bridge these two worlds that I'm trying to get into? No, that makes total sense.
Yeah.
So I want to talk a little bit of how did you get involved with Skateism?
Skateism was through some friends. So basically I met these two people that were running it. And they basically were like, oh, we want to start this magazine. And then it kind of was like that, I guess. It was like a organic, we need some pictures of some people.
And you're like, I take those pictures. So
yeah.
I'm your guy here, yeah.
Yeah, so yeah, just kind of started like that. And then we did it for a while. I actually don't do anything with them anymore. So we kind of, I don't know, there was a little bit of a political, I don't know what you would call it. There was an editorial disagreement a little bit ago. So it started, we wanted to really like diversify things. We really wanted to try to like, the big goal really was like fostering a community, trying to get people like, it was so confusing for me how to like get into media that I really wanted to try to help like foster other people, and like get them in front of companies and be like, okay, here's this, a lot of people don't even understand like who you send pictures to, or if you're a writer, like who you talk to. So we would try to work with people that were like up and coming writers to explain like, okay, these are the editors are who you want to talk to. Here's their emails. Let's try to like bridge that, and kind of like build a little bit of a community to make it easier. And it was like, it wasn't just like the queer community, but it was like heavily based in like, how can we kind of like amplify the voices in our own community and sort of like get them on companies' radars, and a big goal was like, how can we help companies sort of like align with, if it's like content creators or photographers or whatever. It was just basically trying to like take those two worlds and like merge them together,
put like a spotlight on some people that don't necessarily have that like leverage,
Right.
And I think it was
it was like a pretty small thing, you know, so it was pretty fun. Like it was just a group of us trying to like, we put one magazine out every 6 months. So it was like pretty low key.
Yeah.
And then we would just pitch like video projects, and we would like work with people and try to teach them like what a pitch was and what it looks like and how that whole process works. You know what I mean? So that was like, yeah, it was fun. Yeah.
Cool. Awesome. So we're going to segue over. I know that you have some super awesome photos for us to take a look at, some of your own that we can kind of go through, ask a few questions on, talk about like some experiences or some moments from there that you feel like sharing that are tangible. Yeah. Cool. So whenever you're ready, Sam, with the first photo, let us know what we're looking at here. Give us a little backstory.
Okay. This is Chandler Burton. And I met Chandler maybe like 2 years ago. I just like love Chandler, and Chandler's very into like sort of drag culture, and he's just like an eclectic, amazing, like high energy person. I think there's I see a little bit of myself in him, and I'm like a little jealous of him. Like he's kind of who I wish I was younger. So I really just like shooting with him because he just doesn't really he doesn't think about, he's just doing whatever sort of makes him happy, you know, or what he feels like.
Sure.
He doesn't get like super self-conscious, and he's always just like doing voguing and doing all sorts of stuff. So I just love this photo because he just started voguing, and then there's like a whole series of photos, but he eventually ends up like on the street, and he's like doing the splits and stuff.
A hectic sequence, you know?
Yeah, but an amazing person, like really great skater. So I just love shooting with Chandler because it's just so fun. And I think there's like this freedom that I'm like seeing with the younger generation sort of through him that is like really inspiring, you know?
Yeah, that's awesome. I think it's important to find people that like pull something out of you, right? Where you talked about that whole experience of it being organic. And I think that's an awesome point to talk about, because a lot of things that happen that like we're passionate about, you know, we dream of it being this organic process, but it's cool when we find those certain people that kind of like almost like flip those switches for us, or they're kind of like, you're almost like mind blown. You're just like, how did you, like, you're amazing, you know? So I'm glad that like you're able to find people through that, through like skate, through photography, and through all these creative avenues that you work through.
Yeah.
Awesome. So this second photo, we got more of a skate shot here. What are we looking at? Talk to us about this.
This is Jan Harowitz, and he's a Vans skater who lives in South Africa. And we met, I think there's probably a few photos of him, but we met years ago. He was probably one of the first people in like Europe, or I think he was living in London at the time when he came out, but there was years of like, oh, there's this gay skater in South Africa, and like, you guys should go on a trip, you know? And it was, oh, that would be so cool. I've never been on a trip with like a gay skater. That'd be like the coolest thing ever. And then we finally went on a trip, and it was like, I don't know, it was weird. It was like seeing yourself in someone for the first time, and it just felt, I don't know, we just like became good friends. And this was during a trip to Nairobi, and we met this like super cool crew. George, Sam, and Balo are these like local skaters in Nairobi that are just like the coolest people. So this is just like a really fun photo of, there's a skater named Yako on the left, and it's just like that whole crew of people, and then Jan doing a trick kind of like in a back alley. It's kind of just like a fun, I guess a little snapshot or memory of that production, you know?
For sure. Do you feel like photos kind of like help you have like a little like a little note card in your memory?
Oh yeah.
You know? You're just like that whole day and that whole experience kind of, you're just like, you can like relive it almost.
Yeah. And I think that was a big start of my photography, was like my friend Chris had this insanely good memory, and my memory's terrible. So he would remember everything. And if I look at a picture, I can remember like how it smells and everything. And I think that does influence like how I'm shooting, because I definitely try to capture like an environment, you know what I mean? So when you look at it, there's like a vibe, and like you can see Yako looking at Jan, and I don't know, I'm hoping that in this, everyone's been in this session before, you know, where it's like the whole town or the whole neighborhood is at one spot, someone lands a trick, everyone's like freaking out, and it's like, it's not that crazy of a spot, you know, it's just like a fun, I don't know, to me this is what's fun about skating, is you're just like running around the city with your friends and like finding an alleyway, and it's just like super fun to just
the energy is almost like unparalleled, honestly. Cool. So taking a look at this third photo, walk us through this a little bit.
This was on a trip for their skateboards, which is I don't know what it would be, but it's like there's a company called Unity, and then there is, I guess, like another company within Unity, but it's kind of like, it's like a queer skate company. And we just did this big trip to New York. And this is Jennifer, and she's just awesome. And her energy is so good. And her hair was just like epic, and the light was epic. And she's really fun to travel with. She's really fun to skate with. She lives up in Oakland. And yeah, she's just like super colorful always. Like, again, like Chandler, they're like, it's the same group. I mean, Chandler's photo was taken not far from this.
That's funny.
But they're just like, it's such a fun crew. I don't know. It was weird. I think when I came out, I kind of pulled back from skating because I didn't feel like, I don't want to say I didn't feel like I didn't belong, but I just didn't like, I don't want to be dramatic and be like, oh, I don't see myself out there, but it is like weird when you're out skating and it's like, you know, the queer world has its own stuff, you know, going on that people talk about and like make jokes and do all this. And then the non-queer world has its own sort of environment. And when you exist in that environment for so long, you start like, I don't know, I would just start being like, where do I exist? You know? So this crew, like their crew and the Unity crew and all the Oakland skaters were like super inspiring to just like, every joke would like make sense. And like, we would go to gay bars or we would go to queer spaces after skating. I don't know, it was like the weirdest merging of two lives that I kind of kept separate. So I just love all of them in that crew are so cool. And she's like, I just really like the lighting and she looks so cool.
It's an amazing photograph. And it's cool that like, again, like, you know, we talk about like finding these spaces, right, where people feel like almost like, you know what, like this is it. And that's super awesome to be able to have that community and feel that support and that love. And I think that's like super important. I feel like anyone could really take away a lot from that, you know, because it's like in reality, in your group of friends and anyone's group of friends, that's truly what makes you guys like tight, is like that sense of belonging. And I think that's super important for anyone to have.
Yeah. Cool.
So we're checking out this next photo.
Okay.
Got some Cher strawberry action going on.
Yeah, and this one we were all psyched to shoot because this trick is like traditionally called a caveman boardside, and we were like, wouldn't it be cool if it was like a cave woman boardside? You know what I mean? Like, or just like ungender it somehow. So I love the photo and I love Cher. It's a little old, but I still just like.
I mean, it's a great photo.
Such a fun one, and I love shooting with Cher, and Cher's like a big inspiration too. She's like so cool, and like, you know, I grew up listening to a bunch of punk rock, and so like she has like a little bit of an old school, like, you know, Bay Area, a lot of the bands she's into, like I was into when I was a kid. So I don't know, again, there's like a lot of parallels. I guess going back to like seeing yourself in people, like it wasn't until I met a lot of these people that like, you know, I see these like queer kids skating and it was me. I just wasn't like out, you know? So you see them being out and you're like, whoa, that's so cool. You're into the same music. You kind of have similar, I don't know, they just act how kind of like I was as a kid, but they're just like out and sort of comfortable and the world seems to just be changing. I don't know. So it's like really cool to see.
Yeah, you definitely see an evolution to that. I mean, specifically, I guess, in the skate industry, because we're so, like, focused. Like, if you're into skating, right, you're probably overly submerged in it.
Yeah.
And, like, you watch these barriers and these walls get broken down. And it's awesome because, again, it's all about that sense of community and people finding their spots and just like having a good time. You know, it's exactly what skateboarding's about, just having fun and doing it with your friends, which is super awesome.
Yeah, and I think like Cher just had the Epically Later that came out, and that one, it's crazy like how many people, like Rob Welsh is in it, and I'm just like, whoa. When I was younger, I never thought like Rob Welsh would be in something like that. And it's so cool because to me it was like, there's Rob Welsh and then there's like my queer life, and they were never gonna like merge, if that makes sense. And then now there's like Patrick, who makes Epically Later, working with Cher, and it's like the worlds are mixing. I don't know if that makes sense. Like it doesn't.
No, that totally makes sense. Yeah.
And I see people sharing it online that I was like on Instagram, I'm like, whoa, I never in a million years, not that I would think they're like transphobic at all, but just like the fact that people are like taking an active interest in it and being like, whoa, this is super cool. It's really cool to see. So yeah, anytime I can shoot with Cher, it's like so fun and just like so cool.
Yeah, some of your favorites. Going on to the next one, we have another awesome photo of Cher. Talk to us a little bit about this one. A little less skate related, but nonetheless an amazing photograph.
Yeah, I think this was in our friend James's or Victor's house, but their stairs were just painted a rainbow. So we were just like, oh, we should go over and just like take a picture in the stairs. But I love it. Cher is probably gonna, it's like a few years old, so I hope Cher isn't like annoyed, but I just love I sometimes feel cliche because I just love rainbows on things, but I don't know, I just love it. And she's just kind of like sat at the bottom of the stairs like, what? Like,
yeah, almost like absolutely not. Yeah, that's sick.
But I love it. So I guess there's not a big story behind it, but I just kind of
sometimes just having a really cool photo is all you need, right?
Yeah.
Sweet. So moving on to this next one, again, another favorite of Cher, but this is more, we have some skate action, some slappy stuff going on here.
Yeah.
Walk us through this one.
This one's at the Rockridge Curbs, which is like a big, they used to do like Unity. I'm sure they still do. They would do these like big queer skate meetups at the Rockridge Curbs. So it's kind of like, it's a really cool spot, but Cher does these really cool, like slappy back 5-0 to I guess, switch front crook. I'm not like the best at all the combo naming stuff. So we just kind of like, I was just up for the weekend shooting all this stuff, and then we shot some of that. But I just think her style is so cool and just like dug into it. I just like it. I just am also obsessed with Cher, so it's like I could shoot an iPhone photo of Cher and just be like, so this is my favorite photo I've ever taken.
Yeah, these are all my favorite photos. Yeah, it's just like a normal selfie.
Yeah, so I guess that's, oh, go ahead.
Oh, no, I was just saying, I think one of the first clips I ever seen of Cher was, I think she backheeled a 6-set, and I believe Bill Strobeck. It was probably for a Supreme video, but I remember seeing that and I was just like, what's going on? And then this whole part comes out, demolished. You know what I mean? And it was like so cool because it was very similar to like almost like a Corey Duffel, where you like see this personality and you're just like, not like, I'm so honed in, like, what is this person about? And from there, it gets even more interesting. So it's super awesome to see like the progression too. And again, like this buildup. Cool. So this next photo, this is a pretty clever one.
Yeah, this is Jan. This was the first trip we were on. And it was so, God, it was so funny. Like everybody was like, are you guys gonna like talk about boys the whole time or something? And I was like, I don't know. I've never been on like a trip with like another gay person, so I don't even have a clue. And then like literally got there and we must have stayed up so late. We were like drinking beer and just literally talking about boys and just like our experiences in life and everything. And it was just like, it was just like I was saying, to see someone that's like you're just like, okay, wait, so when you talk to these people, what's that feel? You know, it was like so bizarre, but really cool. And so we were
shared
in
experiences. You guys can kind of vibe together on those. That's awesome.
Yeah, and so we were in, this was in Reunion. So we went to Mauritius in Reunion, which is like off, it's like 2 hours east of Madagascar. And it was just pouring in Reunion, and then these rainbows were just like out of control. And yeah, I was like, Jan, I think we were working on an editorial piece, and I really wanted to get a photo that was like, Jan is like a ball of energy.
Yeah, for sure.
Like, love him to death. He's so much energy, he's so fun, he's so good to be around. But I wanted to get something that was like him kind of like being proud, but in his own way. And so we just pulled over, and I was like, oh, make it look like you're like, I guess, puking out this rainbow, because I think that's just like a fun energy. And right when we kind of set it up, it got really dark and the rainbow got like really intense. So it kind of just was like one of those, I mean, we're on the side of like a highway, you know?
Like, I have to snag this right now.
Yeah, like we can't, and everyone in the van is like, we can't, we have to wait until you get this. This is something cosmic's going on right now.
Yeah, you're just like, I need a second. Like,
yeah.
Real, yeah. Awesome. So we switch it up a little bit, looking like a backflip into some secluded area. What are we looking at here?
This is Clint Walker, and he's just backflipping into, we did a trip where we floated down the Amazon River, and this is in Manau. And it's just like, I think those are all like rubber trees. And so the water, I don't know if the trees make the water black. I don't think it's, I'm gonna sound really dumb, so please no one quote me, but like all of this in this, I think it's in a park, all the water is like, it looks like tea. And I don't know if it's from the rubber trees, but I don't think it's like polluted water. You know, there's just something color
like this does to like the color of it, or?
Yeah, I'm not 100% sure, but it's like, so it was just beautiful. And then Clint was doing these really cool backflips, and I just love, I don't know, there's like, where I grew up, there's a rock on a lake that kind of looks like this a little bit. I don't know. It's just kind of a fun like vibe of doing a backflip into water that I think is fairly universal for anywhere that is like a little bit of a summer vibe, you know?
Yeah, most definitely, especially now. It's getting, I don't know about for you, but it's getting like pretty hot in Pennsylvania right now.
Yeah, and there's nothing better than kind of just like jumping into some cold water. And that trip was really cool. You like float down the Amazon. It takes like 2 days in between cities. So you're just kind of like on a boat. You know what I mean? Like you sleep in a hammock and you're just like going through like the jungle. It's just, now that I'm describing it, it does not sound cool, but it is.
Yeah,
cool.
You're almost like, why did I do that?
It was a trip that I don't know if I would do it again, but I'm glad I did it.
Oh, you know I know what you mean. I know what you mean. If somebody explained exactly what you'd be doing now, you'd be like, no, but like you kind of went into it with an open mind, and then like you got out of it and you're like, that was kind of sketchy, but it's definitely an experience worthwhile.
Yeah, it's like all romantic. They're like, you sleep in a hammock and like you're just floating down the river, but then hammocks are like mega uncomfortable, and it's like super hot, and there's bugs everywhere, and the boat is going maybe like 20 miles an hour or something, but it's just rattling. And so your hammock's like kind of always doing this, and you just don't totally, I don't know. It's cool. It's like definite bucket list, but
it sounds like an experience, but a questionable one depending on who you are.
It's like adventure sort of tourism, but not really. It's not that crazy, but it's definitely not, you're not going to go to like Soho House on the boat and like, you know, sleep in luxury linens and be like, oh my God, I'm rested. That was beautiful. But it's definitely something, but that's a lot of traveling is like, you kind of, my best memories have been from like the craziest stuff that you kind of get, you know, it's not always like nice hotels and stuff. If you can kind of dive into different places, you'll kind of learn a lot and like see a lot and experience a lot. But I don't know. I always feel like travel should be a little cathartic, where it's like you should learn a little bit about yourself, like where you come from, how you can be better, how you can treat people better, you know, that sort of stuff. Like it shouldn't always be like plush room service and you know, all that stuff.
No, for sure. I agree heavily. I think it's an important thing for like, to people to like kind of break their own like boundaries, like really figure out like, stuff that's indifferent to you and educate yourself as much as you can through experience and through meeting people and just conversating. I think that's a super big like component that people don't realize is so powerful. It's just the power of a conversation is so like easily looked past, but it opens up so many doors. It's like the start of all these great things. And I think it's something that hopefully our viewers can take away from some of these things that we're talking about today, some of the stories that you're sharing. So I think those are some super awesome photos. We have one more. This one looks like, I like want to say this is like one of the craziest like Mac desktop backgrounds I've ever seen. That's what this looks like. It looks like it would come right on my MacBook. What is this at?
Is it the skater going like this down the road?
Yeah, I think so.
Okay. It's this skater, Alex Halford, and we were just in Greece, and like we did this tour that was like all these islands of Greece, but I didn't know Greece, like a lot of the islands have these mountains, and at the top it's like cold and windy and rainy, which is like, I just did not think Greece would be like that. And there was this road, and I don't even remember why we stopped. I mean, that's so many photos where you're like, and that's kind of why, if you're a photographer, it's, I mean, people are always like, have a camera on you at all times, which is like, try to, especially if you're like going through Greece or something. But sure. I think you kind of just got to be ready to think of like this. I think someone just took a photo with their iPhone for this one. And then I was like, wait, this would be really cool if someone skated down it. And then I was gonna like suggest someone do it, but then they just started doing it, So there's a little bit of a prep moment where you're like, okay, think of what could be cool and like get in place for that. And then he went down. I have no clue why he put his arms out, but it made the photo, there's such a good
I was gonna say, it looks like a good time though.
Yeah, it was really fun.
Sweet. So on to this next, we're getting down to the last few photos here. What's this next photo that we got in front of us here?
I think, let me refresh this because I think mine might be out of order.
Oh, that's all right.
What are you seeing?
I'm seeing somebody looks like they're holding something with some bracelets.
That's May. Okay. This was part of like when Unity was, I think they still do these queer meetups, but they did a queer meetup at Rockridge, and I just went and shot photos, and it's May, who's an amazing skater in Oakland, just kind of holding their board. And I just love all the bracelets. And again, it's like, there's all these things I didn't do and everyone feel bad for me, but like, I just love seeing the younger generation, like doing stuff like that I was scared to do, it's so cool. I just think all the bracelets are like really cool, and just like the colors and just kind of, I don't know. So I just like love this sort of hugging their board and then having all these bracelets and rainbow bracelets and stuff like that. I think is like a really cool look.
No, most definitely. All right, cool. We got this next photo down here that looks pretty sick. You want to talk? Do you still see that next photo?
Yeah, is it the guitar one?
For sure.
Yeah. This was on a shoot in China, and this is a skater named Chao Ji, who I believe still lives in Shanghai, but is just like a character, a really cool like skater, wears tons of colors. Again, don't quote me, I don't know like the history of it, but from what I was like hearing, like some mega colorful dressing like isn't super common. So he's like super just like original. He always has like the coolest outfits. If you look on his Instagram, he's like skating with like just cool jackets. He's just such a like unique person, and we shot him for this Vans thing. But this is just in his apartment, which like he just was so fun and so funny. He had like an exercise bike that he would set up, and then the exercise bike had like on his TV, he'd play this thing that was like roads going really fast, and he would just pedal really fast.
Oh, that's really funny.
Yeah, but he's just a really cool skater in China. And Yeah, so we were just like, just do you know what I mean? And we'll just like shoot photos. And then it was like, can you play the guitar? And then he just started jumping around on the couch. And so it's kind of a mix sometimes with that, where you're like, it would be cool to have this happen, but I don't totally want to say like,
Like jump all over your couch with your guitar. Yeah.
Yeah, but also, do you want to jump all over your couch and just go insane? So it's kind of I don't know, when you're there, you try to create like a fun environment, because I think some people, with some photos, you do want to kind of like be posed, but
sure.
A lot of my stuff, I like it to look, I don't know, I think I always just like it to look like there's a party or something, so it was just like, okay, let's just go in this apartment and try to have as much fun as possible, and then hopefully some good energy comes from it.
Yeah. How important do you think, like as a photographer, like when you like have like clients and stuff, or you're just like going over to shoot like a friend, like how important is it for you guys to like have a good relationship? Do you think that affects the photograph in general?
Yeah, for sure. But it's very rare, like ideally somebody, but sometimes that can get weird, because like, sometimes people don't want to take a picture, and if you know them and you're friends, you want to be empathetic and like not put them through that, but then sometimes like it can be strange to just meet somebody and then you're like, okay, so like give me everything you got, like let me into your world. So there's a whole psychology behind it of just like trying to make people feel comfortable, kind of like figuring out, it's a lot of reading the room, are they nervous? Are they excited? Picking up on things. What are they talking about? What's on their wall? Do they have a Beatles poster? You want to talk about Beatles? You know what I mean? Just something to kind of like bring them in. And I think weirdly, growing up in Iowa was like a big advantage. I think Iowans are like good at, they just talk. I think they're naturally kind of just curious people, maybe because there's not a lot of us. And maybe like I grew up out on a farm, so it was like anything seemed exciting to me, and so I think it's just kind of like, I just try to connect, because I do think it's a special thing. Like you get to take a picture with someone that's kind of like a moment in time, and you share that little thing. So I try to kind of make it something, even if it's just a little blip or a little memory, you kind of try to just like connect with them and kind of make it something special, some sort of emotion, that like stands out. So yeah, it takes some time figuring out how to like connect with people, and getting them comfortable opening up and all that sort of stuff.
Yeah, no, most definitely. I agree. I think it's a super cool thing as well, when you first meet somebody and you guys didn't really know each other, but now through this creative avenue, all of a sudden you spark this like really awesome friendship or whatever type of relationship like forms from there. So I think that's always a cool part of like meeting people, especially through photos, right? Where you're meeting a lot of people sometimes you've never met before, and all of a sudden you might have created a lifelong friend, which is super sick.
And sometimes they hate you and they don't want their photo taken. So that's a whole nother skill set too, of like, sometimes you have to make someone uncomfortable to kind of get the picture, or sometimes it's people you don't like and you kind of have to just like deal with it, if that makes sense. So it's a funny
that totally makes sense.
Profession, because the dream is you connect and you hug and you're like, that was so cool, thank you for sharing that. But sometimes it's someone you don't want to shoot, and sometimes it's a weird thing and you're like, okay, I need to navigate this just to like have it work out. So yeah,
for sure. Cool. So I just want to say thanks again for sharing some of those awesome photos with us. I thought they were all great, and obviously you're going to continue to crush it through your photo career, and thanks for sharing those memories and opening up with like how they make you feel and just things that are inspiring to you. So we're going to shift gears a little bit. We're going to go through, check out some of those submitted photos from our customers. Cool. Do you have those photos with you still?
Yeah, I do.
Awesome. Cool. So whenever you're ready, Sam, if you just want to talk to us a little bit about that first photo and how it makes you feel and give us a little comment on it.
Yeah, I like it. I love the story behind it. And it's funny because it kind of reminds me like a little bit of that Jan photo where he's got like the rainbow coming out of him.
For sure, I was thinking the same thing.
And yeah, the caption is really cool. I always love reading the caption, and it made me laugh as well. I do like the back of their hair has, I don't know if it's like where it's like trimmed, but there's kind of this arc of the rainbow and the arc of the hair that I think is nice. I guess, yeah, the only thing, these are tough because it's, again, like these are the person saying like, you know, this was just a random photo that's like capturing good moments, and you can kind of feel that it's probably two people hanging out and randomly there's a rainbow and they're like, oh, this is so cool. And I guess the only thing I would say is maybe there's like an energy here, but it's like, I think I'd like to see more of it, whatever they're trying to put out, if that makes sense. So like,
For sure.
which is tough because it's just a sort of a snapshot. But that was, I guess, the only thing, I don't know if the critique is the word, but that was the only thought I have. But I love this photo. I think it's fun. And I think the caption's super fun.
Oh yeah.
Great. Yeah.
Cool. So going on to this second photo, it definitely takes a different vibe. What are your feelings on it? Talk to me about the things you like and stuff like that.
This one's really cool. It's very moody. Oops, I like that they reference Ansel Adams, who's like an iconic photographer, and it does have like that tonal quality and that vibe, which I think is like really cool. I do think it's pretty important to like read up on, you know, previous photographers or like legendary photographers, and you know, things are digital and it's a little different, but I think there is a lot of techniques. And like the one thing I feel like Ansel did was, I mean, there was a lot of darkroom stuff that was going on, but there was that planning thing that I think sort of changes with digital. So I think that's really cool that this person has, and you can tell there's some like intentionality to this. And I think I resonated with this because there was times I would have like depression, and I thought that photography was like a fun way to kind of just like, I don't know, you kind of can just disappear. And I think it's a mix. You can like disappear in shooting, and then weirdly, like, I'm hoping this person feels better, and like hopefully this photo, they took it and that like inspired them, you know what I mean, to look and be like, oh, this is like a beautiful scenario, and kind of like lift them out of that sort of depression. So I love this photo. I think it's great.
Awesome. So speaking about photo stuff real quick, do you only shoot digital? Do you shoot film? Like what's your favorite type of like camera to use?
God, it's all over. I haven't shot film in a while. I've shot like video film, but I used to shoot film. So when I started shooting skating, like everybody wanted like Hasselblad still, like slide film, and it was like super expensive and just like, I don't know, it was really tough. So I kind of got burnt out on it because it was like 12, you know, I think I have a roll somewhere, but it's like you get 12 frames, it's super expensive. If you're shooting skating, if they don't even get one good catch frame, you just like blasted through a bunch of money
right there, and then you gotta like switch it out, get it back in.
Right.
Like carrying it and transporting it's kind of a pain in the butt too.
Yeah, but I don't know. I think it's fun. I do this weird thing, like I'll shoot stuff and I like to not look at it for like 4 or 5 days, because that's what I loved about film, is you got like a break from it, and then you could see it again and then go, okay, I'm not like, you know, if you shoot something, I've had times I would shoot something and then I would look at it that day and be like, oh my God, you're a genius. This is iconic. Like, you're amazing. And then like 4 days later, I would be like, what are you thinking? This is the worst photo like anyone's ever taken. And then like a photo 5 in is clearly way better, but you're kind of just in the zone. And I don't know. So I've noticed with myself, my photo editing the same day is so bad. So I like that about film, where it gives you that break, but it's a pain and it's expensive. So I don't know. I still shoot film now and again, but not as much. Because my shooting style, I kind of just go off and like hold the button down, and I go through and pick the right moment. Like the guy with the guitar, I mean, that one's not that hard to get, but there's a ton of moments in between that so many shoots, I shoot like 2,000 to 4,000 photos, where if you were shooting that on film, I mean, there's like 40 that come out. They're all garbage, you know?
Yeah.
But
and the beginning and the end are like, you can't use them. And it's like, you have like this like 6 actual decent photo range. And you're like, hopefully that's what I envision it.
Yeah. And usually you can catch like those in between moments. So film and me, it was fun, but it was tough because I think I was like, oh, I want to shoot this, blah, blah, blah. And then all of a sudden you get 36 exposures and I'm like, wait, what? That's like not that many.
Yeah, right.
So,
like, I shot 30 rolls.
Yeah. Hey, I hope your budget for film is huge because I really want to big.
Back, like, are you sure you went through all the rolls? And they're like,
yeah. And film, you do think differently. Like with film, you do think more. You know what I mean? Like you kind of go, okay, I can't blast through this, so I have to be more intentional. But I struggle with that, so I would just kind of default to digital.
For sure.
But they're both great. Like I love seeing film. You know, it's really, to me, the energy of the photo. It has nothing to do with like, I see great iPhone photos that are like, whoa, that's so good. So I think gear can be an interesting, I think there's like obviously like top of the line stuff and bad stuff, but I think everything you can make a cool picture with. You don't need to spend like a ton of money, you know. I think you just have to figure out the image you want to make and go with it. But I do think a lot of people, sort of up and coming photographers or younger photographers, they get stuck on like that picture was made because of that camera, and it's like, no, it's just the person.
It's those eyes that created it, you know?
Yeah. So
cool. So going on to this third photo we got here, give us a little rundown of how you feel, what you're checking out, stuff like that.
Okay, I really like this. I mean, the caption really got me. And like, I think this is such a moment. It's so funny. Like I was in a car with someone and we just talked about this for hours on this drive back, but like coming out and like the caption where it's like just saying making that public is such a thing in our world. It's such a like, I don't want to say a rite of passage because that feels weird, but it's a universal feeling we all have. So I think anytime someone is like putting themselves out there and is like, this is the first time I made it public, like that, I'm like, okay, I'm gonna cry. You know, every story I hear of that is like always super inspirational because I think we all know what that either feels like to do or to be scared of. You know what I mean? And so you're either reading the caption and seeing like the posture and like there's such a freedom to this picture, you know what I mean? And there you can tell there's just this sort of like breath out of like, oh, okay, I did that first big step and now I'll just deal with it. And it's I don't know, it's such an out of body experience, and you're just kind of like, God, I've been building that up for so long. And you can just tell like, yeah, the posture by the tree, there's sort of this like, they're like comfortable, but still like there's some nervousness to it, if that makes sense. I don't know, I really love this. And I think the caption's so cool. I think like wearing a Pride shirt for the first time, these things are so huge to us. And like, I know it's cliche and I know it doesn't seem maybe like a big deal, and it's often hard to explain, but it's like, kind of goes back to like seeing yourself somewhere else. Like this person might not live anywhere where they see this all the time, you know, and just like building it up in your head, and like you don't have, I don't know, it's hard to explain. So when you see this, I don't know, I just love it. And when someone's finally got over that hill and they've like come out, or they've just like peeled back a little bit of it, it's always just like really inspiring. So kudos to this person. Love this picture.
Awesome. So we got this next photo here. Got some skate stuff going on.
Yeah, I love this photo. I don't know what, like, it just seems like some friends like skating on the sidewalk. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
it's very natural. It's just like a snapshot in time. I mean, I love this sort of stuff because you can like see the cars and um, there's like an Amsterdam sign. I don't know if I think it's in New York, but whatever. It's a fun energy of someone like popping an ollie, and like the lighting I think is really cool. It's like at night, looks like maybe fall, and like, you know, where it's like kind of crisp. I don't know. I really like the energy of this photo. And I think the lighting's really fun. It's just kind of like, I don't know what you'd call, it's just like on camera flash, but I think that's stuff I like to use because it isn't like this big setup and it just looks like really just relatable and like fun, you know?
Yeah, I was gonna say it makes you feel like how you were talking about how you first like, you know, got into skating, right? It's just you and your friends out and about, you guys just figuring out something to do, right? It doesn't have to be this like amazing park or this crazy spot, right? Like it's just you and your friends having a good time out and about. Could be super late, could be some random time, but we've all been there like as skateboarders, like where we have those super great moments together, and it's usually a random night and it's just like we're all out together and it's just a fun time.
Yeah.
Sweet. So we got our last photo here. Let's talk about this. Looks like it's about a road trip up in Oregon, which sounds super awesome.
Oh, wait, sorry. Can I say one thing quick?
Yeah, totally.
The one thing, and this is kind of for all the submissions and like any photographer really, I think one really strong thing about that photo of the person like popping an ollie, there's nothing, like you don't need a caption, you don't need to know anything about it. And I think that's what makes like a really powerful photo, something sort of memorable, is where it can kind of just sit alone and like all the energy of this photo is there. You know what I mean? It's like encapsulated in it. There's a moment and there doesn't need to be any explanation, which I think, yeah, really makes like a strong picture.
Yeah, it leaves it open for interpretation, and that's how people start to like connect. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I get this emotion from it, and somebody might get something polar opposite. But like you said, that's what makes like a really awesome photograph, you know?
Yeah.
Cool.
Okay. The Oregon road trip one, love this one too. I think the tones are really great. I don't know. To me, it feels like someone's, like in the back of a car, just like driving around. To me, I'm like, okay, someone's smoking a cigarette up front. They're like listening to Modest Mouse. I'm like young. I went to Oregon for the first time, and I'm just like, whoa, mountains and all that sort of stuff. You know what I mean? And this was a cool one too, because I kind of like looked at that and was like, this is on a road trip, or this is from a car, it feels. So that's like huge success, like in the photo, that it's like putting that energy right out there. You know what I mean?
Yeah, for sure.
I think the composition's cool. It's like, I don't know. It's one of those like, composition can be anything. And this one's like a little, like you're not getting the whole mountain, you're not getting the whole sky. It's just kind of, I guess to me, it seems like someone did this and like hit a bump, you know? And like it's like a little off, but that's to me what makes it cool, because there's like an energy to it.
Yeah, for sure. I think there's this like sometimes like things that aren't like super candid or like romanticized, you know, like where you're just like, you can almost understand what that person was feeling during that photo, you know, or you, like you just said, you like almost like played in like your own experience, like through that photo, this is what I'm feeling, you know, and like somebody else again could have a completely other one. And like we were talking about before, that makes like a really awesome, it makes an impactful photograph. I think that's important through photography, is to kind of provoke emotion, and definitely through different people and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Sweet. So that was our last photo. So I do want to thank all the customers that reached out, submitted a photo, and thank you for sharing your work and sharing your story with Sam and I and everybody else in the chat and stuff like that. So Sam, I did want to ask you something. Obviously, we're on the stream today and we're talking about you as an advocate and stuff like that. So for me, a question that I want to know, and I'm sure some of the viewers, like, what's a great way, what is allyship, and how do you show allyship, and what are great avenues for people to take in, you know, the real world to create a better environment for people that are seeking out their own places?
I think, you know, I think if we're talking about allyship, I think the best allyship is like an active allyship, which is someone who's like actively involved in someone's life, right? So an example of, and this has been the big conversation lately in my life, is Pride Month is coming, right? So an example of being an ally is saying, yay, go Pride, right? Which is great. But if the example of being like an active ally is, yay, Pride Month, isn't it cool that, and you've done your research and you're like a bit more involved. Like I've explained what Pride is, like why Pride is in June, how it started. And I love talking about it, so I'm not like mad when I have to explain it by any means. But I think the idea of being an active ally is, instead of like a queer person explaining Pride, you've already done the research and you're like involved in their life. And that's just with Pride. I mean, that goes with anything, you know, where it's like, you know, take an interest in their life, you know, if they're queer, if they're non-binary, you know, Google terms, like look at stuff. There's stuff all over the internet. A lot of people, I think, don't want to explain trauma or their feelings all the time. They want to feel like it's a conversation versus like, I don't know, it's weird. Sometimes when you're talking about it, like you feel like you're explaining something, and kind of how we've talked about like being seen and seeing yourself somewhere else. You know, like you're in a room and you're like explaining what Pride is and you're like, whoa, I'm the only one here that knows. And sometimes it like isolates you a bit more because you're like, whoa. And that goes, you know, sometimes I'll explain where Iowa is and I'm like, okay, I'm definitely the only Iowan in the room because no one has a clue where it's at. I mean, that goes the same with like the queer world. When you're like explaining something and you're just like, shit, I'm the only one here that kind of knows what's going on. I think that is the difference between, that would be like passive allyship versus like active allyship, where you're like, yeah, you're just more involved. So I think that's been a big push, is getting people, you know, not just at a Pride parade, not just getting drunk, not just holding the flag, but like being involved in like states that are like limiting trans rights, you know, like getting educated on how you can like go vote in places. If you're in Tennessee, if you're in Florida, if you're in these states that are like limiting rights to people, that's active allyship versus, you know, the sort of like, I'm here to support you. It's kind of like, okay, then let's dive in. And like, you know, it's not, in my opinion, like that much work. It's like, let's just dive in and like be, I guess more educated, so that there's like a better conversation versus like, yay, Pride. It's like, yay, because X, Y, Z, here's the history, you know, etc.
Trying to take a path like that Instagram post, you know what I mean? How do we actively like put this work in motion? Like you said, voting, using our voice, and you know, allowing ourselves to vote for things that do impact the LGBTQ plus community and stuff like that. And I think those are super big points to point out, is actively trying to be better, learn more, right? Understand more. I think those are super big points, not only for myself, but for anyone watching as well, is those are big points to experience as much as we can and have as much of an open mind as we can, and through action. I think action is super important when we talk about allyship and stuff like that.
Totally.
Awesome. Well, looks like we're running out of time a little bit. We kind of chatted it up between the photographs a little bit.
Sorry.
But before we wrap this up, what are these creatives photographers gonna win from being the final few selected?
They're gonna win a print. I'm actually gonna send 2 prints. I'm gonna send a little bonus print in all of these, but they're gonna get a print from me. And I'm gonna sign it too. Sweet. I might include some stickers and stuff too. I don't know. We're gonna see.
It's gonna be a surprise.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. Well, Sam, thank you so much for coming on this call. I had a blast. I appreciate everything that you brought to show. I appreciate your commentary, your knowledge, and you just being an overall rad human being. Do you have any last words for the people watching?
No. Be proud of yourself. You're amazing. And yeah, I guess that would be it.
Awesome. Well, thanks so much, Sam, for taking some time out of your super busy day to sit down with us and chat about some photo stuff and some of the things that you're passionate about. We really appreciate that.
Yeah, thanks for having me. That was fun.
Yeah, of course. All right. Until next time, Sam. Later.
See ya.
Sweet. So guys, last but not least, I want to say thank you for tuning in today. What I did want to talk about is most of you guys know that Pride is this month coming up in June. So this year, Vans is inviting you all to be together as yourselves and celebrate creative free expression in the LGBTQ plus community. But last but not least, what we do want to talk about is the LGBTQ plus community and their rights are impacted by our vote, especially right now on a local level. So not necessarily, we don't have a massive election coming up, but where you guys are at now, you have the ability to impact things that you guys love and that you guys stand up for. So we definitely want to say that get out there, educate yourselves, get as much knowledge as you can on subjects that you might not know, or if you already do know, just to find out more about it. You can go to rockthevote.org to figure out things about your local elections, polling places, or information that will help you vote. Again, I do appreciate everyone for tuning in with us today. Don't forget, be yourselves, love each other, and take care, guys. Enjoy the rest of your day.
Speeding bullets to the sky, hands off of my thigh, will crash.